Charlemagne the Emperor. Charlemagne or Charles the Great was king of the Franks from 768, king of the Lombards from 774, and Holy Roman Emperor from 800. He united much of Western and Central Europe during the early Middle Ages. He was the first recognized emperor to rule from Western Europe since the fall of the Western Roman Empire 3 centuries earlier. The expanded Frankish state that Charlemagne founded is called the Carolingian Empire. The Franks, member of a Germanic-speaking people who invaded the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century. Dominating present-day northern France, Belgium, and western Germany, the Franks established the most powerful Christian kingdom of early medieval Western Europe. The name France, Francia, is derived from their name. In 799, Pope Leo III was physically attacked by a faction of Romans. He flew to Charlemagne and asked for his aid. Charlemagne continued his father's policy towards the papacy and became its protector, removing the Lombards from power in northern Italy. He reached the height of his power in 800 when he was crowned Emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III on Christmas Day at Rome's Old St. Peter's Basilica. His rule spurred the Carolingian Renaissance, a period of energetic cultural and intellectual activity within the Western Church. Charlemagne was devoted to Christianity and took several steps to spread the religion across his vast empire. He gave money and land to the Christian Church and protected the popes. Through his religious reforms he strengthened the Church's power, educated the clergy and improved their skills, and standardized liturgical practices. However, the Eastern Orthodox Church views Charlemagne more controversially, labeling him as heterodox. Firstly, because of his support of the Filioque, which is the word inserted in the Western version of the Nicene Creed to assert the doctrine of the procession of the Holy Ghost from the Son as well as from the Father, which is not admitted by the Eastern Church. And secondly, due to the Pope's recognition of him as legitimate Roman Emperor rather than Irene of Athens of the Byzantine Empire. These and other machinations led to the eventual split of Rome and Constantinople in the Great Schism of 1054. As a skilled military strategist, he spent much of his reign engaged in warfare in order to accomplish his goals. At his royal court in Aachen, Charlemagne gathered the cream of available intellect, most notably the English scholar Alcuin of York. Supported by these scholars, he started an era which, among other things, saw the flowering of scholarship, literature, art, and architecture. Known as the Carolingian Renaissance, it ended the cultural stagnation of the Dark Age which had marred Europe for centuries and laid the foundation for the rise of the Western civilization. Charlemagne realized the importance of learning and he has been regarded by historians as the sponsor of medieval education. He ordered the creation of schools leading to expansion of the educational system. Also measures were taken to revitalize existing schools, standardize curriculum across all schools and increase the number of students. Charlemagne's educational reforms provided the basic tools, schools, curricula, textbooks, libraries, and teaching techniques, upon which later cultural revivals would be based. Recognizing the importance of manuscripts in cultural revival, Charlemagne formed a library and ordered the copying of not only religious texts but also classical literature. Most of the presently surviving works of classical Latin were copied and preserved by Carolingian scholars. The earliest manuscripts available for many ancient texts have survived due to Charlemagne's initiatives. As part of the educational reforms of Charlemagne, a new form of writing was created that was more legible, less wasteful of space and made copying easier. Charlemagne was an efficient administrator. A notable administrative reform was the implementation of a system by which he could supervise his administrators in even the most distant lands. His personal representatives, known as missi dominici, palace inspector, were given wide powers and regularly inspected their assigned districts. The system of missi dominici is considered a highly intelligent and important innovation of the Carolingian government. To exercise his authority locally, Charlemagne continued to rely on royal officials known as counts, who represented royal authority in territorial entities called counties. Their functions included administering justice, raising troops, collecting taxes, and keeping peace. Bishops also continued to play an important role in local government. Charlemagne expanded clerical involvement in government by increasing the use of royal grants of immunity to bishops and abbots, which freed their properties from intervention by public authorities. Charlemagne's early years. Charlemagne was born around 742, the son of Pepin the Short, who became king of the Franks in 751. Charlemagne's exact birthplace is unknown. Similarly, little is known all about the future ruler's childhood and education, although as an adult, he displayed a talent for languages and could speak Latin and understand Greek, among other languages. After Pepin's death in 768, the Frankish kingdom was divided between Charlemagne and his younger brother Carloman, 751–771. The brothers had a strained relationship. However, with Carloman's death in 771, Charlemagne became the sole ruler of the Franconians. Charlemagne's effort to be an effective ruler was given fresh impetus and direction by a change in the concepts of the purpose of government and of the role of monarchs. That change led to the grafting of a religious component onto the traditional, somewhat narrow conception of the basis of royal authority. Drawing on the Old Testament and the teachings of St. Augustine of Hippo on the nature of the city of God, Charlemagne and his advisors progressively saw the king's position as bestowed by God for the purpose of realizing the divine plan for the universe. Kingship took on a ministerial dimension, which obligated the ruler to assume responsibility for both the spiritual and the material well-being of his subjects. This new role entailed a vast expansion of traditional royal authority and a redefinition of the priorities that government should serve. Charlemagne expands his kingdom. Once in power, Charlemagne sought to unite all the Germanic peoples into one kingdom, and convert his subjects to Christianity. In order to carry out this mission, he spent the majority of his reign engaged in military campaigns. Soon after becoming king, he conquered the Lombards, in present-day northern Italy, the Avars, in modern-day Austria and Hungary, and Bavaria, among others. Charlemagne waged a bloody, 3-decades-long series of battles against the Saxons, a Germanic tribe of pagan worshippers, and earned a reputation for ruthlessness. In 782 at the massacre of Verdun, Charlemagne reportedly ordered the slaughter of some 4,500 Saxons. He eventually forced the Saxons to convert to Christianity, and declared that anyone who didn't get baptized or follow other Christian traditions be put to death. Concerned with defending southern Gaul from Muslim attacks and beguiled by promises of help from local Muslim leaders in northern Spain who sought to escape the authority of the Umayyad ruler of Córdoba, Charlemagne invaded Spain in 778. That ill-considered venture ended in a disastrous defeat of the retreating Frankish army by Gascon, Basque, forces, immortalized 3 centuries later in the epic poem The Song of Roland. Despite this setback, Charlemagne persisted in his effort to make the frontier in Spain more secure. Charlemagne's family. In his personal life, Charlemagne had multiple wives and mistresses and perhaps as many as 18 children. He was reportedly a devoted father, who encouraged his children's education. Nihard, a Frankish scholar and contemporary of Charlemagne, wrote a biography of the emperor after his death. In the work, titled Life of Charles the Great, he described Charlemagne as broad and strong in the form of his body and exceptionally tall without, however, exceeding an appropriate measure. His appearance was impressive whether he was sitting or standing, despite having a neck that was fat and too short, and a large belly. Charlemagne as emperor. In his role as a zealous defender of Christianity, Charlemagne gave money and land to the Christian church and protected the popes. As a way to acknowledge Charlemagne's power and reinforce his relationship with the church, Pope Leo III crowned Charlemagne Emperor of the Romans on December 25, 800 AD, at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. As emperor, Charlemagne proved to be a talented diplomat and able administrator of the vast area he controlled. He promoted education and encouraged the Carolingian Renaissance, a period of renewed emphasis on scholarship and culture. Charlemagne ruled from a number of cities and palaces, but spent significant time in Aachen. His palace there included a school, for which he recruited the best teachers in the land. In addition to learning, Charlemagne was interested in athletic pursuits. Known to be highly energetic, he enjoyed hunting, horseback riding and swimming. Charlemagne's death and succession. According to Nihard, Charlemagne was in good health until the final 4 years of his life, when he often suffered from fevers and acquired a limp. However, as the biographer notes, even at this time, he followed his own counsel rather than the advice of the doctors, whom he very nearly hated, because they advised him to give up roasted meat, which he loved, and to restrict himself to boiled meat instead. In 813, Charlemagne crowned his son Louis the Pious, king of Aquitaine, as co-emperor. When he died in 814, Charlemagne's empire encompassed much of Western Europe, and he had also ensured the survival of Catholic Christianity in the West. Louis became sole emperor when Charlemagne died, ending his reign of more than 4 decades. Today, Charlemagne is referred to by some as the father of Europe. Charlemagne was buried at the cathedral in Aachen, Austrasia, now in Germany. In the ensuing decades, his empire was divided up among his heirs, and by the late 800s, it had dissolved. Nevertheless, Charlemagne became a legendary figure endowed with mythical qualities. In 1165, under Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, Charlemagne was canonized for political reasons. However, the Church today does not recognize his sainthood.